Hello everyone, Darren here. Today's episode on WotC Academy is going to be how to defend a failed or abandoned flank. And so we're going to cover the 4 main steps that you need to keep in mind when dealing with a potential situation, such as a failed or abandoned flank. And then we're also going to look at a textbook example of how to deal with this situation. So let's get started. So really quickly, let me explain exactly what I consider a failed or abandoned flank. I consider a failed or abandoned flank to be a flank that pretty much is the opposite of a lemming train. It is the flank that is been um, essentially abandoned or forgotten or ignored and has less than a third of your team going down that flank or defending it. So before we get into the 4 steps of this textbook example, um, we are on Malinovka Winter. I am in the Vindicator Charioteer, and the flank that I'm going to be going up is the hill, probably the most important part of this map being the hill. So step number 1 is know your tank's limits. This is very important. You need to know this prior to you even going in. When you it pretty much comes with making the decision of the tank. What do you feel like playing? What do you know what this tank is and is not able to do? It's kind of like trying to fight on ridge lines in a T-62A. You can't do that as effectively as like a Centurion. So that's step number 1. Step number 2 is you need to know when to pull back. And you're going to see that really quickly here. That's very important. That's something I cannot teach you, and you need to figure that out yourself, as there are many factors that you need to consider when making that call. Again, it's something you have to learn and figure out on a case-by-case basis. I cannot teach you this. Right here in this situation, you see just right there on the bottom of the screen that artillery has pretty much is now focusing me. And this is when I made this call, or in this situation, to go back and go into step 3. And this was that there was more enemy tanks up on this hill than me, and there was artillery also focusing me, along with the fact that there were no teammates close to me at all. So I made the call to go back behind my teammates. Getting back into the situation going on, I follow step 2 and I pull back. This leads into the this will lead into step 3, which we'll cover when we get there. But right now I'm kind of falling back because I obviously am way out of my league and artillery's focusing me. So I pull back to where there's teammates. I dip behind the T-30, so that way it's at least an intimidation factor to try and, make them duck back into cover real quick before trying to shoot me. And right now I'm just trying to do what I can from this position because I don't really want to completely abandon this flank and essentially abandon the teammates here, even though I don't really abandon them. I just put my tank's health first. So here I'm waiting around with them, trying to get some good shots. I'm struggling right now with some of these tanks, even with the premium rounds that I have loaded, and it's pretty much at this moment here that I see that the T-30's been pretty much been encircled and rushed, and he's now done. And what you see right now is me moving into step 3, and essentially what step 3 is that you need to get enough distance between you and the enemy while being able to safely support your teammates that are spotting the enemy. Now, this is a case-by-case basis. You can't do this all the time. I paused it right here so that way I could explain a little bit more. Can't do this all the time. Sometimes there is no teammates to spot for you. But this is exactly what I did right here, is I went straight into step 3 when I saw the T-30 get rushed. I fell back to a position to where I would remain unspotted, and I'd be able to safely support the team that decided to remain up there on that position to try and defend the base. Moving immediately on to step 4, Step 4 is if you lose the flank, continue to shoot and scoot back to teammates. Or, if that is not possible for you, defend the cap or your position until you are either successful or eliminated. You will find that you will continuously switch in between steps 2, 3, and 4, and they'll be interchangeable depending on the situation, and oftentimes you will not be in that particular order. But this is again pretty much a textbook example of how to defend an abandoned or failed flank. As you can see here, we are very successful to the point that our own team is able to secure their base, as well as come around behind them and eliminate them. This was ultimately a victory, just I sadly was not able to record it all. But I'm just going to let this play out more so that way you guys can see just how successful this was doing this tactic for me. So the 4 main steps that you need to be aware of and pretty much remember are the following. Step 1, know your tank's limits. You should know what your tank's limits are before you even load into the match. So that way, you don't need to think about that when the situation goes. You just know right away what you can and cannot do. Step 2, know when to pull back. Again, I cannot really teach this. This is a case-by-case situational based decision, and you have to learn and know when to pull back yourself. There's a ton of situations that you could face based on, the tanks you're facing, the number, just a bunch of factors that you need to take into consideration, and you need to make the call yourself when you should pull back. Step 3 is get enough distance between you and the enemy while being able to safely support your teammates that are spotting said enemy. That is under the assumption that you have essentially just abandoned the teammates behind you initially to go behind them and to pretty much use them as free spotting. If you don't have that, then essentially just go as far back as you can while still remaining undetected, but being able to spot them if you can do that. And then there is step 4 of if you lose the flank, continue to shoot and scoot back to more teammates, or if that is not available to you, defend the cap until you are either successful or eliminated. Pretty much what ends up happening is you go down the order of step 2 to 3 to 4, back to 2. Sometimes it's step 2 to 3 to 2 to 4. And it's pretty much you will find yourself bouncing in between steps 2 through 4 during this entire situation that you're trying to deal with. Overall, that is going to be it for today's video on how to deal with or defend a failed abandoned flank. I'd like to thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up. And if you want to see more videos like this one, don't forget to subscribe. But until next time, this has been Darren of WotC Academy.